We have about 600,000 people in a dedicated community who have applied. They've been vetted by the system to make sure their profiles are the right fit for brands.
Do you see that there's more of a female-driven content space? Or do you see this like a good balance between males and females?
Influencer industry predominantly is skewed female. It's about 70% female, which is actually the more extreme. In our community, it's even further skewed females, about 78% female, which is interesting.
William Gasner is the co-founder and chief marketing officer of Stack Influence, a platform that helps brands scale micro-influencer campaigns with hundreds or even thousands of real creators. He's also a former seven-figure e-commerce seller who knows what it takes to build trust, automate at scale, and grow through authentic content.
Do you even believe in AI-generated influencers? Like, do you use them? Do you create them? Do you recommend your clients to do that or no?
So AI influencers are coming out there's a whole bunch of platforms producing them, but what they lack is trust. And then because of that, you're not going to convert well. Authenticity is just being you. Sometimes you misspell something in a subject line or misspell something in an email, and that can even have higher conversions. And that's kind of an example of authenticity.
For people who build a better relationship with the influencers.
People think of influencer marketing as a pure replacement to performance ads, but you can get so much more value out of creators than just the initial promotion. And there's really two main ways. One is
E-coffee with experts.
Hi, Will. How are you doing?
How's it going, Annie? Very nice to be on the podcast.
I am so excited to have you because you're going to talk about micro-influencers and how to connect brands with the right influencers. I think a lot of marketing groups or departments and teams have a lot of trouble finding the right people, how to attribute sales with influencer marketing. And I'm also aware that now influencer marketing costs a lot more than it used to. So I'm just very excited to explore this with you, as well as you have a really long background in e-commerce. You have sold your business before. So yeah, let's dive in. Let's introduce yourself. Will, who is Will? Who is Will from Stack Influence?
Sounds like a plan and excited to talk about it as well. So I am the chief marketing officer of Stack Influence, very high level, and we can dive very deeper into this throughout the podcast. But what Stack Influence does is it connects and automates micro influencers with e-commerce brands at scale. So think instead of hiring a celebrity who has 1 million followers, use Stack Influence to get 100 or 1,000 smaller creators with, let's say, 10,000 followers. So you aggregate smaller, tighter knit follower bases at scale. You're increasing your engagement rate, your trustworthiness across the board, and you're diversifying risk across a lot more people as opposed to basically putting all of your eggs in one basket. But as you mentioned, I also have a history being a seven-figure e-commerce seller, sold products that range from cutting boards and jewelry to teeth whitening products and toys, and even a history in marketing and web development. So done a lot of things in the past, but now Stack Influence is my primary focus. Yeah, started 2018, scaled up from 3 co-founders to now almost 30 employees and venture backed, and we're off to the races.
That's amazing. How are you able to automatically connect influencers to brands? How does that work?
Great question. So this was a big problem we set out to solve when we were e-commerce sellers. And really, Stack Influence was born from problems that we were experiencing ourselves utilizing influencers. Now, what a lot of the influencer platforms out there do, and we used to use these as e-commerce sellers ourselves, is they have a database of influencers, right? And people can, whether you have a database or you're just finding people on social media, right? It takes a lot of effort to reach out to people, to negotiate with them, to get a good rate for them, make sure they get product, make sure they post on time, make sure they do the right thing that you would like to guide them to do, and then also even analyzing results, right? And so when you think about automating, it's a fantastic question because it's like, how do you automate human beings, right?
Yeah.
We're all kind of over the place and everyone kind of acts differently. And so what we set out to build was a dedicated community that was basically all of the processes for running a micro-influencer collaboration were standardized. And so when it's not just a database of random people. We have about 600,000 people in a dedicated community who have applied. They've been vetted by the system to make sure their profiles are the right fit for brands. They post frequently enough. They have high enough social engagement levels, et cetera, et cetera. And then standardize kind of this collaboration process with them so that a brand can come to us, set a specific goal, again, whether maybe they want 100, maybe they want 5,000 people, upload kind of their product guidelines or posting guidelines for social media, how they want to direct influencers in what to do, set a time frame, and then the rest of the platform is totally, or the collaboration process is totally handled for them. Because we have this dedicated community, we can actually tap into people who we know are really actually interested in the products that they're promoting. We can standardize that process because they, as an influencer applying to our community, already know or when they apply, they already know what is the requirements they have to do. And then literally we can handle getting them product, which we can go into how we do that as well. Make sure they post on time through automation of submitting posts, analyzing results, and then also just provide a very simple tracking dashboard. So they can, even though it's totally hands off, we still obviously want them to be able to monitor how things are progressing, make sure that they can analyze all of the final social posts, collect assets from those social posts, whether that be content or creating longer term relationships with them. And yeah, that's basically, we can dive into any of those kind of subjects in more detail if you'd like, but that's high level how we kind of go about automating things.
Okay, I think that's okay. Thank you for sharing, because I think there's a lot of things going on your platform, which I'm curious how you guys did that. But also in my mind, when you said, "Oh, we automate micro influencers at scale," I was thinking, "Oh, are you gonna use AI generated influencers or something?"
Yeah.
Before we dive into the operation, I do want to solve this quick problem. Do you even believe in AI generated influencers? Like, I could, yeah, yeah. Do you use them? Do you create them? Do you recommend your clients to do that, or no?
We do not create
Okay.
them. And we also, so it's a big topic of discussion, right? As AI is evolving and whether they work or not. The one thing about influencers that is very key is authenticity and trust, right? And we can also dive into why micro influencers are one of the best types of influencers or promoters online versus like their larger influencer counterparts, the celebrities, what the industry calls mega influencers, right? But a big thing of why they're effective is because people trust them and they're really authentic. And so AI influencers are coming out all like, there's a whole bunch of platforms producing them. And it's a wild thing when you first see them. You're like, wow, that actually kind of looks like a person, right? But what they lack is trust, right? So I don't normally now recommend, and I've had some e-commerce clients test them out and they have not been performing. And a big thing, if you look on social media, when you see some of these AI generated kind of like figures talking, etc., the comments are all filled up with like, that's AI, like this is fake news, right? Like it's like almost it's the antithesis of trust. It's the opposite. And then because of that, you're not going to convert well, right? And that's the whole point of micro influencers in general. It's not just a talking head, right? It's someone that you actually believe in, that you trust, that you are like, and that's more powerful than even, again, now celebrities. And again, we can talk more about this, but celebrities have lost a lot of trust over the years. It used to be that's where influencing kind of started, was like, you got someone with millions of followers, I give them a product, they're going to promote it to their audience, and I'm going to make a whole bunch of money, right? And now it's become a fact that when consumers see a celebrity or someone with millions of followers promote a product, they realize they're getting paid thousands, hundreds of thousands, and like sometimes with the Kardashians, like millions of dollars to do a post. And it's like, that's not trustworthy, right? And so then people actually don't convert as frequently from those promotions. And that's why micro influencers, being real people, being honest, providing honest opinions or reviews about a product, converts at a higher level just because it's more trusted. And so going back to the AI system, it's still in its early phases. I think it's going to get better, but I don't think it'll ever replace real influencers by any means, because of that fundamental essence of like why influencers and word of mouth marketing in general is effective, is because of that authenticity and trust. And by nature, AI lacks that.
Yeah, yeah. The word authenticity, how do you say it?
Authenticity?
Yeah, I'm not going to say it, but that word had been around for a long time, and I do content marketing myself. So I think I have trying to crack the code, like what is it like to be authentic online, but a lot of people don't.
Yeah.
many people do not know how to be authentic. A lot of peers of mine, they would go into GPT, generate something, even though it's their own story. I could tell like they use AI to write them. Could you help the audience understand what the hell is authenticity and
Yeah.
how does that translate into an actual piece of content?
Absolutely. So before I dive into that, so the one fundamental thing about our now current day online world is that we're bombarded by content consistently, right? Ads, new content, whether it's AI generated or real people creating it, right? Like we're not only on the computer, on the phone, on social media, on our emails, like it's just nonstop content and it's going to only increase. And so in order to stick out, you have to basically do things a bit differently or be what we've been talking about, authentic, right? And so what does it mean to be authentic? Bottom line is don't be too salesy in some capacity. Like, right, is like, it's a hard thing to define. Like authenticity is just being you. And what is you? And it's like, tell your story in, sometimes it's like you send let's just talk about email. You send an email that's written by ChatGPT, as you mentioned. Now you know, like I can tell every single time that this email was generated, right? And it's like, it's almost too perfect. And it's like sometimes you misspell something in a subject line or misspell something in like an email, and that can even have higher conversions. And that's kind of an example of authenticity. It's like people make mistakes and people trust actually people who make mistakes because it's human, it's relatable. And that's probably the biggest thing to authenticity is relatability, right? And that's when going back also like to what true influence is really, we like to call it word of mouth marketing, which everyone's heard. And it's the oldest form of marketing to ever exist, right? It's like you're an expert in something, or maybe you're not an expert, you just are passionate about something and you tell your friends about it. And they trust you because they're your friend, they're a trusted associate of you, and they have some sort of knowledge in this space, whether they're a professional or an expert in it doesn't necessarily matter if they actually are interested in the subject. Now, that's authentic, right? Because it's like a real life human relationship. And so when you're promoting online to audiences that don't personally know you, you want to resonate or convey that same feeling to these people who have never met you. And so think of it like when you're with your best friends, you're not being, in essence, fake around them, right? Maybe you are in some certain social circles, but you're being yourself, right? And so the more you can convey that in the online world, the better or more trust you're going to have with the audience following you. And authenticity can come in many different forms, whether you're writing an email, whether you're creating a social post, whether you're creating video, image content, or just text-based content, right? But always thinking in the back of your mind, like, how would I be interacting with my friends, my family, right? Like in this, the people who trust me the most, that is now actually what is the best form of content online, because everyone went this kind of inauthentic way of like professional content. I'm going to create this crazy image of myself. And now people are like, that's all we see every day. And so it's like, you're skeptical when you see that content. You're like, is this really how you are, who you are, what you want to become, right? And like, be real with us. Maybe like, you don't always have to use perfect language in your posts. You know what I mean? And that's what AI does not, where it lacks in a weird way. It's like it went for perfection, and perfection is not human, you know?
I totally agree. And I think this was like one of the best definitions I've heard about authenticity. Because I tried to ask this question from someone who is an influencer herself, but interestingly enough, she couldn't explain this easily because she was just being herself. So like she authentically explained what authenticity is, but it's not a definition. It's less relatable. But yeah, I noticed that many people now are basically leveraging their day-to-day life to create content, which then goes viral, and then people like that person. I'm talking about like binging. I'm binging like restocking fridges and like going for a grocery shopping, doing their makeup. And I mean, I'm a girl, so like that's why I like this type of content. My other question is like in your space as tech influence, do you see that there's more of a female-driven content space, or do you see this like a good balance between males and females?
Great question. Influencer industry predominantly is skewed female.
Okay.
It's about 70% female, which is actually the more extreme. So females tend to like to create content more, and you see it online, right? And naturally there's like in the consumerist world, females also consume more than men, but like they're more comfortable, I think, in their own skin being authentic. I think men have a tendency to want to convey this inauthentic image, which, as we've been talking about, is less effective in the online worlds. Naturally, in our community, it's even further skewed female, sorry. It's about, I think, 78% female, which is interesting.
This is insane. I love to hear stuff like this because I'm in the SEO space, and I mean, you do SEO yourself, but like going to SEO conferences, SEO meetups, it's the other way around. 70 to 75% men. I would even say 80, and then some of us girls. And it's just, and there are a lot of women saying, not a lot, but some of them say like, we need more female representation. And being in the SEO space for over 3 years, going through a lot of conferences, because I organize one as well myself, I just see that women are just not interested in this. And there's no pressure, don't pressure a group of people to be in something they don't want to be, because there are spaces like influencer marketing where there's more women, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So I think that's a good takeaway too, is just not to try to push gender agenda onto things that just don't fit sometimes, because there's space for everyone. So now that we have talked about the gender question, I want to talk about the business model / product question. Do you see more lower ticket items being sold on Stack Influence, you see? I'm talking jewelry, clothing, makeup that is not high-end makeup, not I'm not talking Gucci and stuff, but you know what I mean?
Yeah. That's another really fantastic question. So Stack Influence is fundamentally a product seeding platform. So for those of you listening who do not know what product seeding is sending a free product in exchange for receiving some sort of asset in return. On the Stack Influence platform, that asset is a social media promotion, right? And some sort of content that is getting promoted on social media, testimonial, an image, a video. Now, I wholeheartedly believe people need to be paid for their work, right? They should be compensated for a bunch of effort that they do. And so there's features in our platform that can take a relationship further when someone performs, whether they create really positive content, whether they get really positive social results, whether they convert on actual sales to whatever product they're promoting, they get monetarily rewarded for those basically results. Now, but fundamentally, what at least they are getting, and this is the first incentive that they are doing a collaboration for, is just simply the product. And the reason we focused on this is going back to what we discussed before, is authenticity, right? Is if you pay someone, if someone's doing something just simply for money, it's not authentic, right? They could care. If I give any person $10,000, $100,000, right? You might promote anything online, right? But if you are willing to do something for only a single product at first, and maybe you get monetarily rewarded for how you perform and certain actions you take in the future. But if that fundamental desire for a product, and you have to put in a bunch of effort to get that product, you're only going to do something that you actually really like and care about, right? That you are a true consumer of, and you're going to be very selective of that. And that's another aspect to our platform, is making sure that matches fit correctly and giving influencers a choice of what products they actually want to promote, not pushing a specific product on them because it might not be a good fit. And when someone does a promotion for a simple product, compensation basically, it's really, really authentic, because it's not like they're throwing that product away and they did it for this money. It's they're probably going to use that product if they liked it at the end of the day. But if they're picking it over other products, there's a desire there already. And then it's just going to be a more effective form of a promotion. And it's also going to be cheaper for the brand to actually scale out and work with a lot of people. Now, going back, it's a long-winded answer, but going back to actually your original question of price point of products. And I wanted to preface it with all of that. So when you're seeding products, right, naturally there is a cap to a certain level of influencing or influencer follower base that someone's going to be willing to do this, right? Usually around, and there are outliers here. There's people on our platform that have 100,000, 200,000 followers. Most people who are willing to do something just initially for a free product have less than 20,000 followers. And it's a game of scale because of that. So you want to work with a lot of them. Our platform specializes at hundreds of thousands of collaborations per what we call a campaign in a 1 to 3 month time frame. That forces your product to be a bit on the cheaper end, right? And we actually cap products at $100 on our platform. And the reason behind that is if you have $1,000 product, to give away 100 of them is $100,000.
That's
right?
crazy. Yeah. I know.
So it's it gets really, really expensive, and you might not want to give that $1,000 the bottom line with influencing too is like you're subjected to a lot of times the social platform, not just your follower base. Sometimes you can have 100 followers and get a post that goes viral, but other times you might get 20 likes on the post, right? And so sometimes things, and this is why we love spreading it out across a lot of people, because you diversify that risk and increase your odds that you're going to get a really, really high ROI from working with a lot of different creators. Now, that becomes very difficult if you have a really expensive product, because if you give $1,000 product to someone that doesn't drive any sales for you, it's a big loss. If you send a product that is a $30 product or a $40 product to someone that didn't drive any sales, it's less of a loss. And you can also send a lot more to increase your odds that maybe 60% of them are fantastic promotions, but 40% aren't that great, right?
I understand.
And so it ends up, at least in the product seeding world, being a cheaper product that people are promoting. Not necessarily cheap in functionality, but cheap in price. So yeah, that's basically where we play and what I normally recommend. Like, you can seed out large, more expensive products if you're a brand, but kind of should be working with more successful influencers because your product value is higher and your risk is higher, right?
I see. Do you see that other people even promote like softwares or like, yeah.
Absolutely.
Or is it mainly just physical products?
So on Stack Influence, we just deal with physical products. But in the realm of micro-influencer marketing, software products also work fantastic. It's just not an integration in our system. It's something that we are planning to build in the future. It just becomes a little more complicated with how you're confirming a proper promotion at scale, right? Like we're dealing with hundreds of thousands of content promotion approvals in an automated fashion. Now, when you're promoting a software, like some people want a walkthrough of the software, maybe like a screenshot of the software, right? One thing you have to realize with influencers, sometimes people can fraud like a system, especially when you're doing something at scale. And like, it's harder to fraud actually utilizing a physical product than like maybe taking a screenshot that you found online and never actually utilizing the software, but kind of faking it.
Yeah,
So
that's a
software
really
poses
tricky. Yeah,
a few extra issues.
I totally
But
understand.
it works. It absolutely works. It's just not available on our platform just yet.
Yeah. Do you have people like manually checking all the posting in your platform? You said you only had 30 employees. Like,
Yes.
how are you able to track that many posts?
Great question. We do actually have real people look at each post, and we developed a system for them to be very efficient with tracking. But this is where we actually use a lot of AI, is helping real people perform analysis in a more efficient way, right? So there's fundamental things that we look for to make sure that something's in the post. Is the post blurry or is it clear, right? Is the product in it and is the product clear in the post? Are they kind of inauthentically promoting something or doing something in the wrong way that is not going along with the exact script necessarily that we want? We do give people a lot of creative control, but there's fundamental things that we need them to include to make it a proper promotion, right? So we'll use AI to help, first off, very easily analyze some stuff that's like, this is wrong, fundamentally very easy to determine. You don't need a human to actually look at this. And then other aspects that like can easily highlight for a person who's analyzing that final social post to determine very quickly if it's good or bad in essence. But we actually, about 10 people on our team deal with tens of thousands of, sometimes hundreds of thousands of month.
Opposed to my.
And so we've built a very efficient machine, but you still need a kind of human eye to some capacity of it, right? Because content's very different.
It's also a great selling point. Like if I was a business and I want to make sure that my money goes, to the right post, and then knowing that, it's automated, but also we have like a team who oversees it. Like for me as a marketer, it will also calm my nerves a bit. Yeah. One tip, like for people who looking to get into influencer marketing as a brand, how do you suggest them to like build a better relationship with the influencers? Because at the end of the day, if you find maybe like 3 good influencers who can like promote your product very consistently, it's a lot of win.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a really, really good point, and something that people don't do as often as they should. People think of influencer marketing as a pure replacement to like performance ads, right? Like Facebook ads. Like I am doing this because my Facebook ad rates are getting really expensive and I want this other person to just promote and just I give them $1, I make $2. And that happens. Absolutely. Right. But you can get so much more value out of creators than just the initial promotion. And there's really 2 main ways. One is content. So someone just produced some good content for you. If you can get the rights to that content and they give you permission for you to reutilize that, you can now take that and run an ad with it, use on social media, etc. You can take that strategy even further, and there's something called whitelisting ads, which means that you can run an ad utilizing that influencer's own social profile. So going back to authenticity, it's a more authentic way to run ads, and you have to get their permission. Some people will give influencer a commission of this ad spend that you're using on that ad, which is a win-win, right? Just to even run it. And that's a fantastic way to take a relationship further. And then the second way is incentive-based longer-term relationships. So like the simplest one is affiliate marketing, right? Or referral marketing. So you give someone a unique code, whether it's a coupon code or a link, that when they drive a sale through that code, they get a commission from it, right? And maybe you work with 100 people and maybe you identify there was 10 of them that were fantastic. Usually it's a lot more than that. But let's say that you're very, very picky of who you want to work with or who you want to give commission to. Even, and you just mentioned this, like even a handful of people who are fantastic promoters for you, who are doing things on an ongoing basis for you, can be this amazing long-term growth strategy that people don't implement as often as they should. And it can be a way that's like replacing all of your ad budget. And affiliate marketing is a really low risk form of marketing because it's like you're not paying out anything unless you actually get a sale. And you can control what that commission actually is, as opposed to running a Facebook campaign where it's like, maybe during the holiday season, bid rates get super expensive and I just spent $5,000, $10,000, $100,000 and I lost a whole bunch of money on it, right? Like you'll never do that with longer term relationships with influencers. And so, and promotions get more effective the more they are put in front of people. Like there's some psychological studies that have been done that it's like some people need to see content or a brand 2 to 3 times before they actually take action to convert on that brand. And so, yeah, the 2 best strategies, which highly recommend you do, is like, don't just do influencer marketing for that just initial promotion. Absolutely fantastic strategy in itself, but leverage relationships further, leverage content further, and it can be your best marketing strategy in your toolkit.
Amazing, amazing. I think that's a great takeaway for those who are running e-commerce businesses and how to like use their resources smarter. So finally, you mentioned at the beginning of our show before we hit record that you were studying biotechnology.
Yes.
Why?
It was interesting. When I went to college, I at first was going for purely business and also computer science. And then I changed my major to biotechnology because I really fell in love with the science world. And a big part of it, I at the time was running a few e-commerce businesses. And what I loved about science was just the discovery, which is the essence of science, right? Is like having a problem that you're looking to solve and coming up with experiments to actually figure out a deeper understanding to that problem and to come to some potential solution from it. And there's so much overlay with that in business, and especially marketing, which I always had a passion for. Because whether you're building a website and SEO optimizing it, whether you're running an influencer campaign, whether you're running an ad campaign, you consistently need to optimize and you need to run experiments. And there's not a exact formula that works for everything. There's some tried and true strategies, but every business is different and you got to figure out what works and what doesn't. Another reason why working with a lot of influencers is fantastic strategy because like you get to experiment, right? You're not putting all your eggs in one basket. You're working with a whole bunch of different people who are being have different creative minds, and you start to figure out, wow, this works, this doesn't. Let's focus on these different things. And so that drove me to find this love for science and biotechnology, which was kind of the evolving form of the science arts, you could say. And no longer doing anything in biotechnology, but I still take a lot of knowledge and I use a science mind when I'm running any marketing campaigns. Now it's Stack Influence.
Do you also use these testing methods to grow Stack Influence right now? Like
Absolutely.
what are some of like examples for people to take home and maybe implement?
Great question. So we're consistently experimenting on new channels, on existing channels, and do a lot of different types of marketing to grow, right? We use the fundamental ones like literally SEO optimization, like making sure our website blog posts are going live, newsletter marketing, et cetera. And then also do a huge amount in the online ad world and influencer world. You could say eat what we preach. So we utilize not only our own community of influencers to promote our platform, but we also use other influencers out there who might be in the e-commerce world or in the influencer world to authentically promote our brand as well. But we're always experimenting, always trying new things, right? Like the online world is consistently changing. And I think my best piece of advice for those is not necessarily a specific software, a specific strategy, but to test new things.
Yeah.
There's new strategies consistently coming out, and you can test things very efficiently and quickly and don't have to overdo it, right? Like put something basic up, start iterating on it. Don't give up right away when it doesn't work out. There's been strategies that like we tried years ago and we just weren't coming up with the right creative. We weren't maybe spending enough money on it to see actual results that were statistically significant. So don't give up necessarily if something doesn't work right away. Keep iterating and keep trying, and that's the golden kind of rule is
That's
test
amazing.
until you find gold.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for joining the show, Will. And I will link down Stack Influence in the description as well for people to check it out and use your service to, as you said, run experiments and see what works. I learned a lot from this episode. I'm running the marketing team at Digital Web Solutions as well. And now we are testing different things. We are even testing different events. So we do event marketing that has been good for us for lead generation. But we only been doing events in this specific bubble, and now we want to test out different like communities to join. And it's a really painful period sometimes, because like you're used to getting like anything between a 50 to 90 leads an event because you just know the audience so well. But then we go to like a different event and we come home with like, I don't know, 10 contacts or 20 contacts. I'm like, dang, that's kind of low, but at least someone new knows about us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Same.
It's hard to test new things, but it's now you figured out this new audience, maybe how they're going to relate to a certain message that you were putting forward. You can get feedback from them and you can incrementally evolve it to where it could now potentially become your next top strategy, right? And maybe it doesn't. And that's totally fine. And now you kind of pick a new community to go after, et cetera. But it's all iterative process. I cannot highly recommend more than getting out there and testing as many things as possible. Event marketing is a fantastic growth strategy that we've been recently implementing as well.
Yes. And also like paid marketing, for example, paid advertising and stuff. Like we've been running tests and like trying to make sense of like how do we qualify these leads and stuff. So it's like a whole different process on its own. But what I like that you said is like, don't give up from just one mistake, because a mistake is just a data point to like, okay, don't do this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And sometimes you don't always have the budget to do that, but it really like there's been massive platforms that are our best performing platforms right now that we gave up on early on. Like we tested it didn't really work out. We were like, and these are lessons I've learned in my other businesses that I've been involved in, was like we put it aside, we gave up on it, and then for some reason, one or another, we tested again, and it was like we fixed one thing that we thought we were doing wrong, right? From some initial analysis of the experiment that we ran.
Yeah.
It just performed unbelievably to where now it's like, as we consistently evolve it, like it's the best ad channel that we have. And so don't give up is the bottom line.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much, Will. Thank you so much for joining the show. And we hope to see you soon.
Absolutely. Would love to be back. And thanks for having me on.